Inside Story, at this time on Al Jazeera.
Threatening to topple Hamas, two candidates vying to become the next Israeli Prime Minister vow to end the group's rule in Gaza. Two political rivals with one ambition to end Hamas's rule in Gaza. On this hour of news, we ask what the implications are for both Palestinians and Israelis. I'm Hamish MacDonald, also on the programme.
I don't blame Ethiopia for wanting to withdraw its troops. But if they leave, there is no doubt that Al-Shabaab will take over Somalia.
Somalia's president issues a stark warning. His country is on the brink of being overrun by Islamist fighters. Suing a satirist, South Africa's ruling party leader Jacob Zuma files for defamation. As America prepares to double its troop numbers in Afghanistan, the people who live there fear a rise in violence. And in tough economic times, the mother of all jackpots, Spaniards look for luck in a $3 billion lottery. Hello and welcome to the programme. The two leading candidates to become Israel's next Prime Minister have vowed to end Hamas's rule of the Gaza Strip. Kadima Party leader Tzipi Livni and Likud Party leader Benjamin Netanyahu say they will not tolerate a Hamas government. Hamas, meanwhile, accuses Israel of escalating the violence that's flared since a 6-month ceasefire ended on Friday. Richard Bestick reports.
It's estimated that Palestinian fighters have fired 19 Qassam rockets and 3 mortars from Gaza into southern Israel on Sunday alone. One hit this house in Sderot, a town in the south less than 2 miles from Gaza. An escalating cross-border violence mirrored by an increasingly aggressive political onslaught from candidates for Israeli leadership. Speaking to supporters, Foreign Minister Tzipi Livni said her primary goal, if she wins February's general election, would be to overthrow Hamas in Gaza.
There is no calm in Gaza. Gaza is ruled by Hamas, which is an extremist Islamic terror organization. The State of Israel and a government under my authority would make it a strategic objective to topple the Hamas regime in Gaza. The means for doing this should be military, economic and diplomatic.
Words that would amount to a declaration of war if they'd been from the outgoing Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Olmert, who says Israeli forces are ready for anything. Opposition leader Benjamin Netanyahu, the other prominent contender for Israeli leadership, accuses the government of being too passive.
We have to move from passive acceptance of rocketing on our cities and our towns to active defense. This is what is required. In the long run, we won't be able to tolerate an Iranian Hamas base touching our cities.
At a Hamas rally in Gaza, Israeli breaches of the ceasefire were said to be the cause of the region's rising violence.
We have given many chances in the last 6 months. Palestinians have contained their anger, but the Zionist enemy continued its crime and didn't abide by their treaty obligations.
Israeli helicopters were hovering over Gaza on Sunday. Some residents near the dividing wall with Israel said there'd been no peace over the last 6 months. An Islamic Jihad spokesman argued Palestinians have simply been defending themselves.
Israel didn't stop attacking Palestinians, and we have no other way but to defend ourselves and our rights.
A training video from Hamas suggests the violence since the end of the ceasefire could continue. The response from Israel critical. A full-scale conflict would result in heavy casualties and a devastating humanitarian crisis in Gaza. Richard Bestick, Al Jazeera.
Well, let's get some more on this story now. We can go to Washington and speak to Ziad Asali, President and founder of the American Task Force on Palestine. Thanks very much for talking to us. We heard in those comments from Tzipi Livni her saying that Israel would use all economic, diplomatic and military means to remove Hamas. Given that Israel has already been targeting Hamas diplomatically and economically, is the only difference we're seeing now the fact that Israel is saying it will use its military?
It's rehearsal time for the children of the San Ildefonso School in Madrid. They will soon go on national television to sing out the winning numbers of the world's biggest and oldest lottery. This year alone, the Christmas draw will pay out over $3 billion in cash prizes. It is known as El Gordo, or the Fat One, and it has become one of Spain's favorite holiday traditions. An estimated 3 out of 4 Spaniards buy tickets every year.
It's something that's part of our tradition. I think Christmas would not be Christmas without the national lottery. We have got 200 years of history with the Christmas lottery.
Well, because clearly this may garner some votes for either of these potential candidates.
Yes, all candidates who would sound like warlike and wanting to fight and squash Hamas, etc., will get some votes. However, like I said earlier, it is unlikely that this will be actual policy, not the least if not for anything but the fact that there is no exit strategy for Israel if it does in fact engage and occupy Gaza again.
Netanyahu, though, is known for his tough views and actions in this regard. Is it incumbent, therefore, on Tzipi Livni to show her colours at this time more so?
Sure, she has no defense credentials. She is really not very known for her experience in the defense and security field, just a minor role. So she has to sound and look tougher than the other guy, which Netanyahu, of course, thinks that it is his corner to sound and look tough and always talk about crushing the Palestinians.
But I guess what I'm asking you is that in this context, is she the one that is more likely to actually carry out some kind of military mission to try and topple Hamas? Given that, as you say, she doesn't have those credentials?
Well, to tell you the truth, I do not see that a real major campaign is going to take place, a reoccupation anytime in the near future, precisely because both Hamas and the Israelis benefit from a period of calm. Hamas worries very much about its own leadership in Gaza and does not want to jeopardize the whole exercise by having Israel reoccupy Gaza. On the other hand, I don't think that the Israeli Defense Army has a strategy to reoccupy and get out without heavy casualties for the Israelis and also civilian casualties, which will pose a serious political problem for Israel. So a serious engagement is unlikely no matter what the politicians say.
Ziad Asali live in Washington. Thanks very much for talking to us. Well, still ahead on this hour of news here on Al Jazeera, catching up on the conflict. US Marines recount their experiences in Iraq. We'll have more on that later. Well, moving on now, and in an exclusive interview, Somalia's president has told Al Jazeera that his country will disintegrate into chaos if Ethiopian troops pull out, as promised, in a few weeks' time. His comments came as crisis talks were held in the Ethiopian capital, Addis Ababa. Ethiopian troops have been in Somalia for almost 2 years, backing a weak transitional government, but their presence has been largely unwelcome. They've been the target of almost daily attacks by Islamist fighters in the capital, Mogadishu. One of the main demands of the Islamists is the departure of the Ethiopian troops. But the fear is that if they leave, the capital will fall. The Islamist fighters, among them the Al-Shabaab group, will take over the country. Al-Shabaab already controls most of the country's south, including Kismayu. Al Jazeera's Mohammed Addo has been filing exclusive reports on the Al-Shabaab from Somalia. And we asked him just how significant the president's statement is.
Well, it was a very frank admission from the president of the capability, security capability of his government, the lack of soldiers to adequately man the security in the country. And he says if the Ethiopians leave, then there would be nothing in between the Al-Shabaab taking Mogadishu and the rest of the country. And when I challenged him about the issue of Al-Shabaab bringing security to areas under their control, the president rubbished that.
This is no peace. The Al-Shabaab kill anyone who speaks out. They are killers who behead innocent civilians at will. People are quiet because they fear them. They are living in terror under the Shabaab. I don't blame Ethiopia for wanting to withdraw its troops, but if they leave and are